Now we have just discussed that viscosity has this formula, F is equal to F upon A dV by dx, right? Also, we have stated viscosity at fluid friction, but what are the similarities or differences between viscosity and solid friction? Okay, let's talk about similarities first. First of all, both oppose relative motion, right? Viscosity, that is viscous force, as well as solid friction force, both opposes relative motion. Both comes into play when there is a relative motion. Without relative motion, there is no existence of either viscous force or normal friction or solid friction. So both comes into play when there is a relative motion. Now both are due to molecular forces, because in each case the molecular forces of attraction was causing the liquid layers to stop, and even in case of solid friction, when there was molecular forces between actual point of contact, it was causing the net body to stop. So both are caused due to molecular forces. Lastly, both are in direction tangential to that of the relative motion, right? So both act tangentially opposite to relative motion, because that is how they oppose the relative motion. Now these are the similarities. What is the difference between viscous force and solid friction, I mean, difference. Okay, so differences are, first of all, viscosity depends on the actual area of liquid layers or fluid layers in contact. So area in contact, that is what viscosity depends on. But frictional force is independent of area of contact. What does the frictional force depend upon? Frictional force depends on the actual points of contact, right? Then viscosity depends on velocity gradient, that is how much velocity is changing per what length or after covering how much distance. So viscous force depends on velocity gradient, whereas frictional force is independent of velocity gradient. Lastly, viscosity is independent of what? Viscosity is independent of normal reaction, whereas frictional force entirely depends upon normal reaction. So viscous force is independent of normal reaction. So these are the differences and similarities between viscous force and solid friction.